They had this brand new mountain division that they were starting up in the mountains of New York. I was like, sounds good. Sounds like something for me.
Sergeant First Class retired David Pavey has called the 10th Mountain Division home since its second beginning, arriving to Fort Drum just after its reactivation in 1987.
Probably the first 6 months that we were up here, we were in the field about 150 some days.
Preparing him for several rotations to Panama and Germany. But it wasn't until Somalia when he saw what war was like.
We didn't fully know the mission of what was going on. We were told that it was a humanitarian mission.
Not humanitarian for long. Many know the Black Hawk Down incident during the Battle of Mogadishu, but not all know that the 10th Mountain Division was heavily involved, happening when Sergeant First Class Pavey was on the ground in Somalia.
What a lot of people don't know about Mogadishu is that that was one incident of many that happened prior to that. What you ended up really seeing as the mount operations on a big scale with like the 10th Mountain. You would go through the whole city, you coordinate it off. We put concertina wire, our engineers, completely around this city so that people could not get in or out. And you went door to door searching the houses, and you were searching for weapons or anybody that we knew were definitely part of the militants. Everybody that you're hearing about in the news right now, they were in Somalia. And that's what drove the different factions that were fighting in Somalia.
Seeing the army change before him.
Between Somalia as a whole and Mogadishu, the army sat back and re-looked at the way we did things, which centered around the urban terrain. And so policy was completely reformed after Somalia in the way we did things, in the way we trained. And we've seen a big shift towards the operations in urban terrain or operating in the cities.
This was one of the many missions Pavey served. He left Fort Drum in the late 1990s and continued to serve around the world, only to return to Fort Drum nearly a decade later and further prove his leadership capabilities.
I was asked by the Division Sergeant Major at the time to go over to the aviation unit and start up a Pathfinder unit. That was the first time they'd ever had a Pathfinder unit here at Fort Drum. And our sole purpose was working under the Personnel Recovery Agency. People get lost, people kidnapped, helicopters crash, whatever. We were the ones that were to go out and rescue them.
Deploying to Afghanistan with the Combat Aviation Brigade in 2008.
Everything we did was by aircraft. We had designated aircraft. We worked 48 hours on, 48 hours off. From October 8 to October 2009, we were the only thing going on at that time. A lot of the units that were, the only way they got around was by the up-armored vehicles. They'd only try to go into certain areas so many times, and they'd counter IEDs and whatnot. They were not going into that area anymore. But helicopters and jets flying over in those areas kept seeing stuff that was going on. And that was also the first time we ran into Iranian drones. We had an F-16 shot down an Iranian drone, and it was my unit that went and picked that up.
Earning Bronze Stars for successful missions. Like many veterans, Dave has endless stories about his time with 10th Mountain, which helps him today in his role as Jefferson County's Director of Veteran Services.
It's all about helping the community, and the veterans are a big part of this community. It's my chance to give back to the community, to the veterans, who, if it wasn't for veterans and the active duty, who knows if we would be here right now, sitting here like this, having this conversation.
And continues to remind soldiers of the once-in-a-lifetime opportunities in the North Country.
Having the mentorship, and as I grew up through the military, having the right leaders to show me what I needed to do, I think that's a big part of why now I want to give back to not only the veterans, but I try to also give back to the active duty soldiers that are on post. Being a veteran is, I think it's something you owe the country.